Welcome to Psychology of Humans. Today, we're diving into the psychology of habits, how they're created, what makes them stick, and how you can rewire your brain to replace destructive ones with powerful new routines. How habits form. Every habit begins as a simple three-step loop: cue, routine, and reward. This concept was popularized by author Charles Duhigg in The Power of Habit, and it's grounded in decades of behavioral psychology. Here's how it works. The cue is the trigger that starts the behavior. It could be a time of day, an emotion, or even a smell. The routine is the behavior itself, what you do in response, and the reward is what reinforces it, the feeling your brain gets afterward that says, yes, do that again. For example, you feel stressed gives, that's the cue. You reach for your phone and scroll social media gives, that's the routine. You feel momentary relief or distraction gives, that's the reward. Your brain learns that this loop reduces stress, even if only temporarily. And with repetition, the neural pathway strengthens, turning that behavior into an automatic habit. The brain's role. Habits are formed in a part of the brain called the basal ganglia, an area responsible for pattern recognition, learning, and movement control. Once a habit is established, your brain essentially goes into autopilot mode. That's why you can drive home without remembering the details of the journey. Your conscious brain takes a break while your habits take over. Meanwhile, the prefrontal cortex, the decision-making part of your brain, becomes less active during habitual behavior. This is both a blessing and a curse. It saves mental energy for new tasks but also makes breaking bad habits extremely challenging. Why habits are hard to break. When a habit forms, it creates a kind of mental shortcut, a pathway that becomes deeply embedded in your neural wiring. Your brain doesn't distinguish between good and bad habits, only between what feels rewarding and what doesn't. That's why willpower alone rarely works. You can't just erase a habit, you have to replace it. Scientists call this process habit substitution. You keep the same cue and reward, but you insert a new routine. Let's say your cue is stress, and your old routine is grabbing junk food. You can swap the routine for something healthier, like deep breathing or taking a quick walk. The cue and reward stay the same, but over time, the brain learns the new pattern. The power of small changes. Most people try to change everything at once, and that's why most fail. Research shows that focusing on small, consistent changes is far more effective. This concept is often referred to as habit stacking. Coined by James Clear in Atomic Habits, it means attaching a new habit to one you already have. For instance, after I make my morning coffee, I'll meditate for 2 minutes. By linking the new behavior to an existing cue, you harness your brain's existing pathways instead of fighting against them. Over time, these small shifts create massive transformations, not through willpower, but through structure. Breaking bad habits. To break a bad habit, you need awareness first. Most people underestimate how unconscious their routines are. Start by tracking your triggers, when and why the habit happens. Is it boredom, anxiety, fatigue? Once you identify the cue, you can interrupt the loop before the behavior occurs. Then, replace the routine with something more constructive. The key is consistency. Repetition builds new wiring. Neuroscientists estimate it takes around 66 days on average to form a new habit, not the 21 often quoted in self-help books. So patience and consistency are essential. The habit environment. Your environment shapes your habits far more than motivation ever will. If you want to eat healthier, don't keep junk food visible. If you want to read more, leave a book on your pillow instead of your phone. Behavioral scientists call this choice architecture, the idea that small design changes in your surroundings can dramatically influence your behavior. In other words, structure beats willpower. The identity shift. Perhaps the most powerful aspect of habit change lies in identity. Instead of focusing on what you want to achieve, focus on who you want to become. Don't say, I want to quit smoking. Say, I'm not a smoker. Your habits are a reflection of your identity, and your identity is reinforced by your habits. When those two align, change becomes effortless. Final thoughts. Habits run our lives quietly, powerfully, and constantly. They determine our success, health, and even our happiness. Understanding how they work gives you the power to reprogram your own mind. Remember, keep the cue and reward, but change the routine. Start small and build momentum. Design your environment for success. And most importantly, focus on identity, not outcomes. The science is clear. You don't need to change your entire life overnight. You just need to change what you do next, and repeat it long enough for your brain to believe it's who you are. Thanks for watching Psychology of Humans.